The goal of this video is to provide 5 sprinting techniques that can transform your sprinting. And while just one change in your sprinting mechanics can end up having life-changing results, I chose 5 because you may be good at some of these techniques already, but we really want to make sure that we can hone in on one thing that can transform how you're sprinting. And I decided to go with Christian Coleman just because I think he's a lot more relatable of a sprinter to a lot of people that are following this channel and watching these videos. Somebody like Usain Bolt is 6'5", has scoliosis. You're not going to have as many people that fit that build. Same even with Noah Lyles. He is only 5'10", which is a lot more similar to a lot of you guys, but he has a very, very long leg to torso ratio. And to me, it just doesn't fit that same type of profile. And while Christian Coleman is very relatable, he is 5'9" and is pretty average when it comes to leg length, pretty average when it comes to overall build, but is able to get great results. A lot of that has to do with his acceleration and his quickness out of the blocks, which I think a lot of people really want to understand how to be able to do that. And I think there's some great things we could learn from Christian Coleman that you could implement into your sprinting that, again, can have life-changing results. So let's go and hop right into it here. This is from 2019 when he ran 9.76, which is another part of this video. It's just how can somebody that's only 5'9" run 9.7 in the 100, really being able to get isolated into some of the things that he did really well in order to do that. So first thing we want to be able to see is look at the first foot strike. So we can see as he's going through what he's doing with the foot. But I think a key thing that we want to be able to recognize here is as this foot's landing from the very beginning, we're seeing an even knee, which means that when his foot striking the ground, we really see, well, a lot of these guys are like this. As your front foot strikes the ground, we don't want to see a lot of separation between the knees. You should already be driving straight through with that opposite leg. So as your foot's hitting the ground, those knees are even. Again, one thing that could end up being life-changing in terms of your results. I think that that could end up being a big thing for a lot of you guys is just from the beginning, make sure you're getting that back leg through. So as you're striking the ground, you're already even with both knees. Second step, not the same. He's a little bit further back, and we see that from, again, all these guys. Justin Gatlin probably does the best at being able to get the knees even. But by the time he gets to his third step, again, very similar position. Both knees are even there as he is accelerating. So again, something that you guys can potentially work on. The next one is going to be just getting your feet right underneath. I've seen this with a lot of people with their acceleration, with their running in general. We'll see toes going off to the side when accelerating, when getting into the top speed, as opposed to keeping the toe, keeping the foot right underneath you. So if we were to draw lines on the outside part of his hip, right, straight lines here, notice that as his foot's coming off the ground, he is never allowing the foot to go outside of the line. So it's really as the foot's coming off the ground, as he's going through here, see how his foot's staying right underneath his pelvis. And then as he strikes the ground, that's when we're going to be getting wide. So I see a lot of people who are impacted or don't have as good of acceleration because they bring their foot more around during this phase. They don't have the right range of motion and their foot goes around. And then as they strike the ground, the foot's going this way, as opposed to what we see with him. He's bringing his foot right up underneath. And then as he's striking the ground, he's getting more turn on his right side, but either going outwards with the action or slightly turning out with the leg ends up, I think, being a big part of being able to properly and effectively accelerate. And most importantly, again, 5'9", 9.76, the best way to be able to do that is you cannot be wasting too much motion going to side. You have to be doing a great job of maximizing your distance per step. And the best way to be able to do that is as that foot's coming off the ground, make sure you're bringing your leg straight through as opposed to, and your foot straight through, as opposed to allowing your foot to go outside of your hip in your backside mechanics. Number 3 out of the 5 is going to be prioritizing shoulder action or wrist action over elbow action. And so what we typically see with sprinters is guys that are not as fast as we'll see a lot of extension in the arm, a lot of extension within the elbow, or a lot of flexion in the elbow as the arm is coming forward. So as you're coming straight through, make sure that motion is very quick. We don't have a lot of extra bend happening in the arm. And then as we're coming back, you want to be pulling straight back with the elbow. Notice how he's keeping that very locked in. And a big reason he's able to do that is by having a very active wrist. He does a great job of pulling all the way back and getting the wrist to come back and then drives the hand back up and through. I see a lot of people that will waste time with the pullback of the shoulder because they're not getting as much action through the wrist. So if your wrist is facing forward or your thumbs are facing forward, then you are not getting enough movement through the wrist and therefore are wasting some of the power in your arm swing. Make sure you're getting full power out of the arm swing by really pulling all the way back with the wrist and with the elbow, as opposed to really limiting that range. You got to be able to have great power, but we also need to be able to have great quickness. I think that you could see with Christian Coleman, he does a great job of being able to maintain a large amount of power out of the arms because he's very efficient with the shoulder, with the wrist. Very important to work on. I love doing change jumps as a great way to be able to do it, but just working on standing, hand position, and just how you're cycling the arms. You could even use weights. All these things are great to make it so then you can improve your arm swing. Number 4 here is going to be really looking a lot more at the backside mechanics and what you want to be seeing out of your backside as you are going through the sprint. So we're looking to see his foot position. We could see toe is all the way back. We also see a great range here within his knee, or a great bend within his knee. You have to be able to get a lot of height out of the heel, a lot of height out of the foot, and a lot of bend out of the knee, which is going to require a lot of quad range of motion and also a lot of hamstring strength in order to get to these types of ranges. What we'll typically see is as this foot's getting higher, the knee starts to come through really quickly. So we'll get closer to like this position here when that foot is getting up really high, where you need to be able to get the knee right underneath the hip. And at this position, really the closer that this could end up being, the smaller this angle is, the better. We'll see like Usain Bolt, his whole heel will be up against his butt as he's starting to come up and through. People that are not as fast will see a lot of separation in this position. And so make sure as you get that knee underneath the hip, you have a good high heel, and also that toe is facing straight back. If you don't have those things, then you got to work on it, right? This is, again, let's get one thing that you could really get specific on that could be potentially life-changing, okay? This isn't just like a, hey, look, let's maybe get a little bit faster. Let's change your life because you get so much better at getting this particular sprinting mechanic fixed, whatever it is. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 1 and 4, whatever. Make sure that you're able to focus on it and fix it, because if you do, trust me, results can be life-changing. Don't be casual with this. Be very specific with it. So as we're coming through, and the reason why this is important is because as we're coming through, you got to be able to maintain a lot of height in the heel. The sooner your foot starts to drop down, then the more potential you have for losing your speed. So you had to be able to keep that heel up. So then as you strike the ground, you generate this pull. What will end up happening is if you don't have as high of a heel in your backside, then as your foot comes up and through, you'll end up going in and striking right on the ground, typically with the foot out in front of you, which is going to be considered overstriding, or you'll end up going and landing with the foot straight down underneath you, which is fine, but it just makes it so then your foot strike, or the amount of force you can generate into the ground, is going to be a lot less. So in order to fix this, you have to be able to master what we're doing on the backside and getting that great range of motion in the knee, mixed with or combined with having great hamstring range of motion. It takes a great deal of hamstring range of motion to get to this range. I'll even have people just hold this if they really struggle with it, where I'll just put a ball there and just force them to hold it, because this range of motion is very, very uncomfortable for a lot of people, and therefore you will end up struggling with your speed. Number 5, and I think this is a really important one, but I did save it for last just because it can be something that a lot of people are already pretty good at, but there's also a lot of people that I think can really struggle within this area and therefore do not get the most out of themselves. And it's the difference between relaxing and tensing up as you're running. So when you see somebody like Justin Gatlin here, you could see how much stress he is putting on his body in order to run fast. I even think when looking at Christian Coleman, looking at his face, looking at his neck, he is very much holding on here, right? You can see the veins in his neck are pulsing. He's not completely relaxed. You have to be able to understand, in my opinion, how to fully push yourself to a high level in order to get the most out of your speed. So with Christian Coleman in particular, again, 5'9", he ran a .85 split. He probably actually ran quicker. I couldn't find exact splits from this one, but 0.85 even at 5'9" is 26 miles an hour. That's super impressive. 26 miles an hour, again, probably above. He reached above 26 miles an hour at 5'9". The way he does that is has an amazing ability to be able to play that game of having a large degree of push, a large degree of intensity, and also still have that relaxation to be able to get full range within the elbows, within the wrists, within the hips, within all parts of the body. So you got to be able to have both relaxation in the body so then you can achieve effective ranges, but you also have to have a great deal of intensity or strength or power within your core. So why he's tensing, why Justin Gatlin is tensing, is because there's so much power being generated out of the hips. But if you generate a lot of power and don't have great compression within the core, then that's when the legs and feet start to flail all over the place. Have you ever seen like those things outside of a car dealership, flailing all over the place, no core, right? That's the whole point of it, is you don't have any real stability on the inside, which makes it so then they can move all over the place. You can't be like that. You got to be solid there, which a lot of times you have to be able to have a great deal of pressure going on within that area in order to make it so you can strike the ground effectively. But this means you have to be able to breathe while you're also maximally contracting the core to make it so then you can generate the most amount of force out of the ground. I think this is something that you could practice. I think this is something that you could work on. I know for me, it's led to great deals of improvement in my sprinting because I'm pushing. I'm really working hard to be able to run fast, and it required me to be able to run faster than I ever thought I could even run, right? And generate more force in the ground than I thought I could generate into the ground. And that has to be the mindset to some degree, is you have to be able to push yourself outside of that comfort zone. And you can't do that unless you are getting a ton of contraction out of the core. And just to go off of that, if you watch these guys when they're running, you watch Sha'Carri Richardson, you watch Noah Lyles, all these people, after they run, like Noah Lyles, when he ran the 100-meter, was Olympic champion. Yeah, he celebrated. Yeah, he got excited and everything. But a lot of them are super out of breath. But they're the most in shape people in the world. There's no way they would be that out of breath because of how challenging a workout that was. It's not because of that. It's because of how hard they're contracting their core as they're running and how they're kind of holding their breath. So they basically went through that whole time where they're just pushing themselves so hard that that's what makes it so then they end up being out of breath. It's not because it's such a tough workout. It's because of the contraction that they were using in the diaphragm in order to run sub 10, or in this case, 9.76, or even for Justin Gatlin running 9.8. So you got to understand how to do this. Again, be fully intentional with this. This isn't something to be lackadaisical with. It could really be life-changing for you if you really commit yourself to understanding how to do this correctly. Again, this is, of course, if you're good at the other four things. If you are, then this is kind of that last step to be able to really see some great improvements with your sprinting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. That really makes a big difference in being able to help grow this channel. I'm continuing to make videos like this, help you guys understand sprinting, make it so you can get great results in your sprinting form, in your sprinting technique. I think that there's a lot of you guys that are going to see some great improvements going into this up and coming track and field season. Believe it, you can make it happen. I know this is the time you guys are putting in a ton of work, a ton of energy, a ton of effort. I love it. Keep it up. Keep it going. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.